Hey everyone, welcome back to another video in which I want to discuss about CSS variables, which is again something which is new in CSS 3. Now what this means is that you can to some degree use variable-like thing in CSS. That is, you can assign a value, you can change it using JavaScript, more on that later on when we are learning JavaScript, but you can mess around with variables in CSS. So what does this mean? Let's just go ahead and just create a very simple HTML document here really quick. HTML head opening, head closed, body opening, body closed, and I just have a, let's say, h1 tag saying hello world, right? We can also bring in a style sheet, which would be link rel style sheet href style.css, right? Which is at this file right here. So let's just open this, and already in the style sheet file we can see we have some content. So let's just get rid of this. So what we can do next in order to create a variable, first of all, let's just go ahead and give a background of body color of, let's say, yellow. Now what you can do in CSS is you can create variables, just like I said, and the way you create variables is the way you write property names. However, there's a very important difference, and that is these variables name will start from 2 dashes. So whenever you write 2 dashes, whenever CSS sees 2 dashes, this means the name of the property now is not actually a name of the property itself, but it is a variable. So let's say I want to say bg color, and I just want to give this as green, right? Let's see. Now, this variable is defined, right? It is there, it contains the value green, it's all fine and good. However, in order to use this, what you have to do is you have to use the keyword var. Now, this is a sort of a function in CSS which will expect the name of the variable, and it is like the full name. It's not like, you know, without dashes. You have to specify the full name. So you see right now I created --bg color as the green value property name, and then I access that using var, right? And you can see on the right we actually see that the background turns green. So this is pretty cool. Now, one thing you have to be careful about when you're using CSS variables is that it follows a scoping mechanism. That means your variable is only applicable to the particular element on which you're applied, on which you have written the variable declaration on, and the children. So that means let's say if we have a div right here with a div ID of some div, right? So if we have this div right here, and if I go ahead and add a some div and bg div to be, let's say, red, and now I give it a background of, let's say, var --bg div. So this thing right here, you can see it turns red, but this bg div variable is not accessible in body, right? Why? Because some div is the child of body, or in other words, body is the parent of this some div, right? So parents cannot access the variables of children, but children can access variables of parent, right? So you can use bg color right here, and if we just remove this, you're going to see that this in fact turns the div into green. So you can see this happens just fine. However, if you go ahead and try to use, let's say, bg div inside this one, nope, like this. If you try to do something like this, this will not work. You know, you see that the background did not apply because they cannot see any red. So you see that you cannot really transcend the variable sort of hierarchy in CSS. So most of the people who want to have a global sort of variable, what they can do is by the time you would probably know that, you know, if you're applying any variable to body, it will be accessible to everything. But sort of the convention is to apply it on HTML, right? Or to apply it on root. And root is just a pseudo selector. We'll discuss more on pseudo selectors when we in the next video, actually, not really in JavaScript series. So this is basically equivalent to HTML. You can think of that. So once you apply all the variables like on the HTML selector, now you are free to go ahead and make use of them in different tags, right? So you can go ahead and say body and then background BG color, right? So that way it will just work fine. So this is how, in a nutshell, CSS variables work. There's one more thing with CSS variable, and that is you can specify a default value. By that, what you mean is, let's say if bgdiv was not set, right? So in that case, if bgdiv is not set, what I want to do is I want to say that the color should be yellow, right? So this value right here, you can see it is basically the default fallback for the variable, right? Now, one thing to remember again is that if the variable value itself is invalid, then the fallback does not get triggered, right? So you could see that if the value instead of red is, let's say, 1 pixel, which is a wrong sort of value for a background, then you can see we do not get yellow, right? It just does not work. So it does not work like, if the value is not working, then we just fall back to default. That is not happening here. It just happens if the variable is not set at all. That is the case. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Just the takeaways are that if you want to create variables, you most likely want to do them on the HTML, because in CSS, you probably would keep the variable scope global in most of the cases. If not, you can also have component level access of the variables, but that is sort of like an advanced use case, I would say, but you get the idea. So you can create as many variables as you want, assign them any value. Like, for example, you can say div padding and give it a value of 20 pixel, and now you can just apply this div padding to basically like padding, and then you can say what div padding. And yeah, if you ever decide to like change your layouts or anything, you just have to change the value of a single variable. So that is pretty cool if you ask me, right? So yeah, that's pretty much how it works, and that's all for this video. I'm gonna see you in the next one really soon.